Okay, so in Standard 14C, we're going to talk about Napoleon. We're going to talk about how he came to be such a leader in French history, so his rise to power, where he was defeated and how geography played a role in that, and then how that's going to influence France and the rest of Europe. Okay? All right. So Napoleon rose to power for several, okay? And remember, what's in purple or pink is your vocabulary, so you need to be paying attention to that. And what's in yellow are your notes. That's what you're going to copy down. The other stuff is nice to know, but the stuff in yellow and purple is the must know. So Napoleon was a French citizen, and he was a member of the French army, and he was incredibly successful in the French army. Okay? He was a successful general during the French Revolution itself. People loved him. People appreciated his power and his success. In 1799, he seized power in France. Okay, the French people were just completely exhausted from the revolution, and they were looking to somebody who was charismatic and could lead them, somebody that they could turn to. So the people absolutely adored Napoleon. He fought for equality for the French people. He fought for rights for people who own property, and he lessened the restrictions of the church, so allowed the French church to do as it needed to do. And then Napoleon instituted what was called the Napoleonic Code. So remember we talked about the Justinian codes, the Roman Law Code, Hammurabi's Code. It's a system of laws and how it protects or doesn't protect people's rights and people's liberties, okay? The Napoleonic Codes limited people's civil liberties or their rights, and it focused more on France rising to economic power. So Napoleon was a successful leader, and people loved him, and he did fight for equality for the French people. Napoleon, with the French army, he crowned himself Emperor of France in 1804. And I'll move my picture out of the way for you. Okay. And he really wanted to see France rise to a true empire. Kind of looking back to Rome and Alexander the Great and how they created these huge, vast empires in Europe. That's what Napoleon was looking at to do. But Napoleon led his army to Russia, and he wanted to take over all of the Asian continent. But he started to Russia. And he went to Russia in the fall of the calendar year in 1812. Now, keep in mind, if you're also taking U.S. history, then you've talked about the War of 1812 in America. So this is happening at the same time. The War of 1812 in America is when the British and the Americans are fighting once again. But America is a free nation at this point. But Napoleon leads his army to Russia, and he takes the city of Moscow, but not before the Russians burn it to the ground. And they're really quite strategic in this. They know by burning it to the ground that Napoleon and his troops will have nowhere to stay. They'll have no place to get food. So this is incredibly strategic on Russia's part. And because there's no food or shelter or supplies, remember Napoleon went to Russia in the fall, winter is coming, okay? And winter's pretty tough in Russia. Napoleon tries to march his troops home, but he gets caught in the winter, and he kills most of his men. Napoleon took 600,000 soldiers to Russia, and he only came home with 30,000. So think about that. He's pretty much depleted his entire army. He has nothing left really to conquer with or do any damage in any other country. Okay. The reason this is so incredibly important to Europe is, one, Napoleon's gone at this point. He's going to get exiled. He's removed from power and sent away. And then diplomats from Britain, Russia, Austria, and Prussia are going to meet at a place called the Congress of Vienna. Now, you're going to hear about this later in world history and probably in U.S. history at some point. But the whole point of all of these diplomats from all these different countries meeting is to create societies in which revolutions won't take place again. Okay? And it tells you right here in yellow, the diplomats' goal was to establish more conservative societies where rights are incredibly limited, but we're still taking care of our people. And to avoid these opportunities for these ideas to flourish that cause these revolutions in the first place. Okay? So Europe is taking a page out of the history books and saying, you know what? We've tried revolutions. We don't need mass chaos in our societies. We need these revolutions to disappear. How can we prevent them in the future? So that's what they do.